When creating my thriller opening, I was aware of the fact that I wanted to challenge some of the conventions that appear within a mystery crime thriller genre. Usually quite a dramatic and enticing event happens at the 10-minute mark that kind of changes the course of the film. However, I decided that I wanted to create a more abstract and abnormal version of this moment and put it right at the beginning of my thriller. Um, Although this may be considered not a very typical convention, I kind of came to the conclusion that it would benefit my opening thriller without hindering the rest of the film. Another quite iconic feature that's seen within the thriller genre is the use of children in films such as The Woman in Black, The Lovely Bones, and The Innocents, which I looked at all of them. Um, Children play quite a prominent role in creating a sense of enigma and tension. I think children are often associated with this idea of horror and possession within films like this. And I decided to develop this convention within my thriller opening. The girl who stars in the film is a 14-year-old girl. The openings of thrillers are also quite abstract, filled with a sense of enigma, anticipation, allowing the audience to feel the sense of mystery and wondering what's going to happen next. I was really aware of the fact that I wanted to develop this convention by interlinking different events, different timelines, to create this sense of unknown and confusion for the audience as they were watching the thriller opening. I edited some of the sequences, especially the opening one, in quite a fast and choppy way to again add to the sense of enigma and unknown throughout the thriller opening. As mentioned before, the main character within my thriller is the 14-year-old girl. As the audience follows her story, themes of insecurity and loss of innocence are explored. I really wanted to make this story relatable to average teenagers. Although her literal situation might not be relatable, her emotional journey in this feeling of insecurity and loss of innocence is explored. It can be really relatable to many teenagers out there. Real news stories such as the Madeleine McCann case, the Lambeth slave woman, and also the book Room all act as a template for the representation within my thriller. I think it was clear that in these types of situations, women are normally depicted as vulnerable and victims. However, within my thriller, this young girl is shown to be very strong-willed through her passion for dance. As well as following the girl, we see a lot of the parents' daily struggle, not necessarily represented within the opening, but throughout the whole thriller and the treatment. The parents' struggle and daily perseverance to find their girl is prominent throughout. As we see their relationship fall apart due to this event, we see a real struggle that many parents could relate to. Again, not the literal situation, but perhaps the emotional journey that these parents do go through. Inspiration for this representation I took from Mark Wahlberg in The Lovely Bones. You see his character as a very depressed and angry man once he realises that something has happened to his daughter. I tried to keep this in mind when thinking about which social groups I wanted to represent. The themes that occur throughout, such as kidnapping, family, love, betrayal, mystery, loss of innocence, these are all quite typical themes that appear in a conventional thriller film. I can imagine this film appealing to a wide range of audiences due to these recognisable traits and similar themes. Similar films such as The Black Swan, which also uses dance to represent a quite distorted and abnormal situation, and The Lovely Bones, which obviously uses kidnapping as a way to tell a story as well, were both produced by big companies such as DreamWorks, Film 4 and Foxlight Pictures. These films also had very big distributors such as Universal Pictures and Paramount Pictures. I think that it would be possible for my thriller to be produced and distributed by similar companies due to the themes and the fact that they're so relatable to a wide range of audiences. However, saying that, I can also imagine this film to be shot in quite an art house, more independent way, which kind of steps outside of the comfort zone, veering away from predictable. For this reason, I can imagine it being distributed by more independent companies, such as Working Title, perhaps even Working Title 2. Something that's based more locally and has the freedom to kind of have that independence when filming. It may not reach box office rating, but I think it would have a high chance of being critically acclaimed. As mentioned before, I think that this film tackles a lot of themes and issues that a lot of teenagers can relate to. That's not to say that it wouldn't appeal to other audiences as well. However, I think due to the plotline and themes, my target audience would be majority through the ages of 16 to 25. This idea of loss and harm that is abstractly shown in the opening 2 minutes is very compelling. I think that a lot of teenagers have something that they deeply care about, and the idea of losing this or not being able to do this hobby anymore is a horrible thought. Um, this allows the audience to empathise with the protagonist, causing the emotional connection to draw them in. Through camera angles, I've also shown a large amount of close-ups, which I think also creates a sense of mystery and confusion as the shots are not so clear of what's going on. I've edited it in quite a non-straightforward way, especially in the opening section and the dance section. All of these combined, I think, help to create this sense of enigma, which the majority of audiences will be drawn in by. I've had some experience with editing software before, such as iMovie. So before starting this project, I did have a basic knowledge of how to use different editing tools. However, I've never used Final Cut Pro before, and although quite similar, there are things that I did learn along the way. Final Cut Pro is generally quite slicker software, with added things like shortcuts that I was able to pick up along the way. Things like the match colour I found really useful when editing, along with the blend modes, especially during the dance sequences. I found this really helpful to create the kind of atmosphere that I wanted to create. During this project, I also used some equipment that I'd never used before, such as the GlideCam 1000. It was quite difficult to learn how to operate, and I think that because it was the first time, there are quite a few things I could have done better, such as learning how to balance it. However, the fact that I was able to get my hands on one, I think really benefited the opening, and also gave me an opportunity to just learn a bit more about some equipment. I used my Canon 700D to film all of the sequences within my opening. I've used my camera quite a lot to take still images. However, I've never used it to film anything, so that was quite interesting to see how that works. It didn't take me very long to pick up, but it did take some time to kind of get used to. The main thing that I've learned from this process is how to edit in quite a controlled way. When editing in the past, it's always been quite free and spontaneous, but from the preliminary task to the final project, I've had experiences with shot lists, location spotting, doing animatics and storyboards and mood boards, and all of this together has really helped make it a lot easier to arrive at the final project that I'm proud of. Also learning about rules such as the 180-degree rule, I've learned quite a lot about cinematic boundaries. Not only has this given me the opportunity to follow them, but also to break them. I think by fully understanding what the conventions are, and I learned this through the preliminary task, I was allowed to make an educated decision about whether it would be more effective to break them or to follow them. Throughout the course of my film, I've also made the conscious decision to pay really special attention to the mise en scène, which I learned a lot about throughout the preliminary work. For example, when filming the wheelchair scenes, we brought in extra lamps for that because I wanted to create a certain atmosphere, and I wanted it to be a very kind of mysterious setting, creating a lot of enigma. Whereas when the girl was dancing, I made the conscious decision to use natural lighting because I feel that it's the one time in the thriller opening where her true self is really being shown. I mean, this is a hobby that she loves to do. We get the sense that she just absolutely adores it, and so to have this natural lighting, I think, really represents the true sense that I wanted to come across. one of the most important things that I've learned is time management. Being able to follow certain timelines and deadlines has been extremely helpful. Using things such as crew and cast lists, call sheets that I've never done before, allowed me to be a lot more focused and careful about the decisions that I made, and led me to make a final project that I'm really, really proud of.